Hello there, you're now with me, Henny Gui, for your 5 p.m. English news on TVS. Let's dive into the news. The body of a woman who was reportedly missing on April 2nd was found this morning some 100 meters away from the location where she was reportedly to have been snatched by a crocodile in Sungai Peking, Marudi.
It was reported that Runyan Tempan, 38, went bathing in the river near her longhouse earlier that day and was later found missing at about 11:30 a.m. It is believed that Runyan from Rumah Matis Depa had been a victim of a crocodile attack. According to Miri Fire and Rescue Department Chief Superintendent Lau Poh Kiong, the body had been identified as that of Runyan. The victim's body was discovered at about 100 meters from the location where she was reported to have been snatched by a crocodile near the Longhouse Jetty at 10:30 a.m. by the villagers and was later handed over to the police for further action. The search and rescue operation, which was activated at about 4 p.m. yesterday, had involved the firefighters and police as well as the Longhouse residents with some 15 boats. The operation, which had entered its second day today, started at 8 a.m. and with the victim found, it ended at 11:30 a.m.
Now, the cooperatives in Sarawak are urged to actively participate in the Sarawak government's initiatives in developing the state into becoming a global food production hub.
Minister of Entrepreneur Development and Cooperatives, MEDEC, Datuk Sri Dr. Wan Junaidi Tuanku Jafar, said cooperatives have the resource to potentially be one of the driving forces in developing the state's food production sector by investing in more commercial-scale agriculture-based businesses. He said it is time for cooperatives to be more involved in projects that can bring about huge impact, not only for its members, but the local community as well. In addressing food security issues, the cooperatives are urged to start producing food locally to reduce dependency on imports. However, this may require huge capital, and that is why not many entrepreneurs are brave enough to venture into this. He said this in his speech after visiting a banana plantation owned by Koperasi Penduduk Daerah Asajaya Berhad here today. Wan Junaidi also pointed out that as of December 31st, 2020, there were 1,077 cooperatives in Sarawak with close to 300,000 members.
13 years ago, he made a bold decision to quit his job as a manager at a fast food restaurant and began a business selling colombie based on his mother's recipe. Today, all the hard work had paid off, and Zainuddin Yusop, age 49, is the proud owner of Odin Colombie and Deck Cafe that is not only well received, but also a main attraction in Sarikei.
According to Zainuddin, the skill and recipe that he had inherited from his mother proved fruitful and his business is now running smoothly without depending on others.
Istimewanya mi kolok Odin kolok tu di Sarikei tu, nyampun mi, kami ambil fresh mi, setiap hari kami ambil mi fresh, bukan mi yang kering, mi yang fresh. So bezanya antara mi fresh dengan mi freshnya aromanya lebih tinggi, lebih kuat lagi baunya. Kemudian teknik masak mi kolok tu amat sukar. Mun si pandai mulanya akan jadi lain rasanya. So teknik ya harus kekalkan momentum teknik ya sehingga sekarang lah supaya tekstur mi jadi nyaman dimakan. Segi ramuannya biasa sajalah, cuma ada yang di special bahagian kami itu special sebab kami ada ramuan yang kami orang pun lah ya sudah padalah.
He added that to become a colombie business operator was not easy. This was due to the many challenges faced along the way, especially when transitioning from operating a stall to a restaurant.
Bisnes mi kolok tu kami bermula daripada tahun 2008. Kami di Sibu Sarawak. Dalam tahun 2008-nya bisnes mi kolok si berapa baguslah sebabkan baru masukkan mula-mula. So kami berpindah di Sarikei tahun 2010 macam ni. So kami start berdagang di Sarikei, kurang sambutan juga. So jadi lama kami mulanya kan jadi alhamdulillah sampai ke tahap itu lah.
Oden, colombie, and Deck Cafe became one of Sarike's huge attractions for food lovers. Moreover, his customers were not only from around Sarike, but from all over Sarawak. Various types of food are served at his restaurant, namely mee pok, laksa Sarawak, char kway teow, and many more, with prices ranging from 4 ringgit to 7 ringgit.
Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the Handicraft Center in Miri City was always full of tourists. However, the situation changed after the pandemic affected the handicraft business.
This drove one of the handicraft traders, Caroline Payalawai, to sell her handicraft online to maintain her income after tourists no longer arrive in the city.
Okay, jualan untuk masa ini memang agak menurunlah sedikit. Even though because of the pandemic lah, mungkin sebab the pandemic. Okay, for us sebagai usahawan, bersabarlah seperti biasa bersabar. So alternatif untuk menaikkan untuk menaikkan jualan, alternatif saya biasanya saya akan guna itu Facebook, melalui Facebook ataupun WhatsApp. At least kawan-kawan tahu kan, because sekarang pelancong pun tak banyak. So all we need to do now is depend on the local je.
James Wan, who was selling weave handicraft, concurred with Caroline. Selling products physically dropped to 90%, and this led him to use social media to market his products.
Memang jumlah pelanggan kita telah jatuh hampir 90% lah. Tetapi banyak di antara peniaga-peniaga di sini mempunyai saluran marketing yang lain daripada walk-in customer. Contoh dia, banyak mereka di sini menggunakan online platform untuk berjual. Sebab sekarang Brunei pun tak dapat masuk, Sabah pun tak dapat masuk, Semenanjung pun tak dapat masuk. So, daripada tunggu mereka datang ke sini, kita memasarkan produk kita secara online.
In spite of that, handicraft entrepreneurs were given incentives to support their businesses. According to the head of Tourism Development Committee of Miri Municipal Council, Warzidia Ahmad, the incentives were given by the Sarawak government and Miri City Council to sustain the livelihoods of all the artisans.
Kita bersyukur Kerajaan Sarawak yang prihatin serta pihak MDM telah memberi bantuan BKSS, bantuan khas Sarawak Pesayang kepada peniaga agar dapat pengecualian bayaran sewa sebanyak 50% dari tahun lepas, dari bulan April hingga September 2020, dan tahun ini Januari hingga Jun 2021. Majlis Bandaraya Miri juga telah menyambung kontrak peniaga-peniaga di sini selama setahun. Dan ada juga beberapa inisiatif yang dirasakan dapat diteruskan demi survival dalam sektor craft ini, melalui online dan virtual dan sebagainya.
Hello there, and thank you for staying with me. Now moving on, thunderstorms with heavy rain and strong winds are expected to hit most areas in the west coast and inland states of the peninsula, western Sabah and central Sarawak. This is following the transition phase of the monsoon from March 16th. According to the Malaysian Meteorological Department, or Met Malaysia, based on the weather forecast reports for the period April to September 2021 issued by the National Climate Change Centre, the transition phase from the northeast monsoon is expected to continue until mid-May. The same survey report also said that the country's weather conditions are expected to be affected by the southwest monsoon phase from mid-May to September, which will see fewer thunderstorms and heavy rain, with most states experiencing more days without rain. Met Malaysia will regularly update the weather forecast in the event of significant changes, and the survey can be accessed online. Now, the Ministry of Education, or MOE, will close schools with COVID-19 cases if infections force a large number of teachers to be quarantined and affect the efficiency of school operations. Senior Minister of Education, Dato Dr. Razim Majidin said, if a COVID-19 case was detected in a school, the District Health Office or PKD would conduct a risk assessment and advise the school accordingly. Based on the risk assessment, PKD would tell the school whether only some classes, certain floors, or buildings of the entire school should be closed. He said after a ceremony to hand over keys to SMK Tasek Glugor and maintenance funds to 31 schools in the Tasek Glugor parliamentary constituency. Previously, the Penang government had suggested that schools with many positive COVID-19 cases to be closed and instead implement the home-based online teaching and learning. The starting salary for graduates entering the job market is expected to be higher by the next 3 or 4 months, with the country's economy seen recovering. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Economy, Dato Sri Mustafa Mohammed, said the government was aware of the salary received by new graduates last year. The salary received was low and attributed the situation to the COVID-19 pandemic, which adversely affected the country's economic growth as well as globally. He said it had been the government's aspiration to create more quality job opportunities so that the new employed graduates could enjoy higher salary. 2 days ago, a local portal reported that a majority of graduates entering the job market last year received a monthly salary of between 101,000 ringgit to 1,500 ringgit compared to the average of 2,001 ringgit to 2,500 ringgit recorded in 2019. Now wrapping up the 5 p.m. news, a man claimed to have lost 1.2 million ringgit after he was deceived by a business partner who had invited him to invest in the tourism and real estate sectors locally and abroad. Johor Police Chief Dato Ayub Khan said the 52-year-old victim, who met with his business partner back in 2019 in Kuala Lumpur, realized he had been cheated when the individual in his 30s went missing. He has since lodged a police report at the Johor Jaya police station on Thursday, April 1st. He said the victim was said to have handed over the money in stages from 2019 to 2020. Ayub Khan said, so far the scammer had only deceived this victim, but further investigations would be conducted under Section 420 of the Penal Code. He called on the public to be wary before making investment decisions, especially when the investment promises high returns and involves financial transactions. And that concludes the 5 p.m. English news on TVS. As usual, don't forget to tune in for the Nightline at 11:30 p.m. with Cheryl Shaminato. With that, I'm Handy Gui and have a pleasant day.